Morning, baseball fans, and welcome back to Dan's Vintage Baseball PC. Do not be fooled by that fancy name. It's just me and some friends talking about baseball cards. Well, today, very little baseball cards, but baseball-oriented material. And if you talk about modern cards and the one-of-ones, here's where you're going to really see some serious one-of-ones. I have two friends on who I've known for several years now. Mostly through Twitter, but now through in a chat thread. And we have bonded over baseball cards, but in recent years, both of these gentlemen have gotten into vintage snapshots. And it's a sort of growing part of the hobby that is, as far as I'm concerned, absolutely fascinating. So today's show, you'll see some amazing photographs, candid photographs, historical, not only in baseball history, but in American history, and some really cool stuff. So really looking forward to this one. Let me bring my guests out. Here we go. There's Wade. And there's Lucas. Good morning, gentlemen. How are you?
Good morning.
Morning. Doing good.
Good.
It's the morning in New York City, but it's the really early morning out on the West Coast. So sorry about that, Wade.
Nope, still drinking my coffee. So if I misspeak at all, I'll just blame it on waking up early.
There you go. Lucas, where are you located?
I'm in South Central Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay. So like Harrisburg.
Yeah, near Gettysburg, 20 minutes away.
Okay, all right. I'm familiar with it. Actually, something will come up about Pennsylvania because one of the players in one of these photographs goes on to coach for a long period of time at a college in Pennsylvania. So I did my research. So Lucas, you were on the show. You have not been on the show.
I have not been on.
Wade, you were on the show, I don't know, a year ago, I guess?
Yeah, it was almost exactly a year ago because it was a Monty episode during Black History Month.
That's right. During Black History Month. That's correct. So yeah. So we talked a little bit about your baseball background. How is it, Wade, that you got into the sort of vintage snapshot world and describe that sort of collection world a little bit for me if you can?
Well, basically, I mean, shortly after getting back into collecting like vintage, we all had that group chat together, and then I met Lucas through that, and that's basically seeing Lucas's collection. It's like I do a little bit of amateur photography, and then seeing like these candid photographs that like are just so like in the moment of baseball that we don't get to see now, or the players we don't get to see, but like we get to see them from the perspective of fans, like up close and personal, or from afar, like sitting in the stands taking action shots, and just seeing these very unique pieces is what drew me in, and seeing Lucas's collection is what drew me in.
Well,
appreciate that.
We'll take it to you, Lucas. How did you get into this particular, very sort of niche aspect of the hobby? I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that in a good way, actually.
I got into it mainly just from a few friends seeing their collections. My friend Gary, he, as far as I'm concerned, he has the biggest collection of snapshots of anybody, vintage baseball snapshots in the world. I started looking at his stuff, and I love that you get to see unique images of players you've never seen before. It's like having unissued cards, is what I've always said. I just really like that.
Well, when I described him in my opening as real one-of-ones, I mean, is that like feel that way?
That's very true. Yeah, that's.
And how? What's the market like? Where do you? Because I know baseball cards. I go on eBay. I go to auction houses. I go to Facebook, friend groups, etc. Where do you get the material that we're about to see?
Mostly eBay, but I've gotten it from some auctions, maybe one or two flea markets, but mainly eBay.
Yeah, it's a lot of just waiting for the exact right thing to come up. Like you can try and plan all you want for like, this is a player I'm going to go after.
Yeah, you can't do that.
6 months to multiple years waiting for that one player snapshot to come up. But yeah, it's kind of get what you can when it pops up, and it's a race to that buy it now button sometimes.
Yeah. Yep.
Do you find that they're the same people sort of chasing the same?
Yeah, definitely. I'll be looking at something, maybe I'll bid on it, maybe I'll lose or win, and I'll share it, or they'll share it, and I'll see it, or they'll see it, and friends will win, friends will lose. Sometimes that's how it goes.
What you do see in like the baseball card auction houses is like Type 1, Type 2, which I got a collection of those just because they fit into other collections of baseball cards. But the actual sort of one-on-one snapshots are something you don't see often. Now, I got mine, and we'll go into this, and I talked about it last week, because just randomly my grandfather went down to spring training in 1942 and took a bunch of photographs. That's the only reason I have these.
That's so cool, though.
Yeah. So yeah, it's cool. So I mean, that's kind of what we're talking about. Like, if I decided to sell these, which I promised my mother on her, on her deathbed, so to speak, that I would never sell these. So sorry, guys. But that's the kind of way you would come about them, right? Like somebody finds them in an attic or whatever, right? I mean, is that?
Yes. That's pretty much how it goes, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very rarely do I get them from the source that took them, just like because the age of them at this point is getting to the point where it's someone is finding them in a real estate auction or some estate sale. So most of the time it's secondhand, but sometimes you can find like an original source for some amazing snapshots. And those often have writing on the back and just speak volumes about the history of just not only that baseball player, but like a fan. Like it's their history as a collector.
Yeah, I mean, there's a backstory to cards sometimes, but these have real backstories, and there's one pretty intense one that we'll get to midway through. But let's go to some vintage snapshots. So these are this is, I don't know, I guess it's 2 different files filled with snapshots from all 3 of us, mixed in together. I sort of tried to go a little chronological, but we'll skip around a little bit. But so we started with the earliest one that I thought was the earliest one. It might not be, but
it's tied. It's tied. Yep.
So what are we looking at here, Lucas?
This is a photo of Eddie Collins at Columbia University field. I am not sure. Eddie is here in white. I don't.
Let me see it closer.
Yeah.
There he is. Okay.
Yeah, that's Eddie in white. The 3 players in black, I unfortunately don't know who they are. I know Eddie was a very popular player, so I'm thinking maybe those 3 wanted to just have their photo taken with him, but that's just a guess.
I don't know. It looks to me like Columbia's field should be manicured a little better. I'm not so sure.
I agree with that.
All right. So this one on the left, I know, is Bill Coughlin because it says it on it.
Right. This is from 1904 as well, and it is from Matty McIntyre, a fellow Tiger player.
The guy with the crazy hair in some of those photographs.
Yes. And Matty was kind of in my books, he was kind of like the first guy ever to take photos on a field of major league players. He was like, that's as far back as it goes pretty much. And yeah, this one is Bill, and it is taken at Bennett Park, so it's pre-Navin Field or Navin Field. I'm not sure how you said it.
Wow.
Is that attached to like an original album?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. So many snapshots from like that black paper is just so, it epitomizes like the albums of baseball cards. Like so many times you'll find like snapshots with album residue on the back or just cut out of albums and stuff. So I love seeing the paper.
This is actually attached to the black paper there?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Now, Bill Coughlin was known as Scranton Bill, and interestingly enough, he coached college baseball after his career at I think a college in Easton, Pennsylvania. So not that far from you.
Not far.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
On the right is a player that I did a show on about 6 months ago, Smokey Joe Wood.
That's Joe. Joe is here. I don't know the exact date. I can't pinpoint it to the exact year, but I know it's about 1917 to 1920. And he's shown with a bat, which, most people know him for his very hard throwing, but later in his career, he was a pretty good hitter for being a pitcher.
Yeah, he went on to become an outfielder for Cleveland, and Chris Speaker decided to give him a shot, and he stuck, and he won a World Series title with them in 1920, I think it was.
That or 21, one of the two. That sounds right.
And so, do we know what stadium that is? Because it's a very large.
Unfortunately, this is one of the only ones I have. I don't know which stadium it's at.
Okay. Could be municipal, which I think existed then. I don't know, but
Could be.
Terrific shot. So we're moving up a little bit. The gentleman on the left, you can tell us a little bit about who that is.
Yeah, it's Billy Southworth. He is a longtime Cardinal, one of the Cardinal greats, really. He's shown here in, I think it's 26, but it could be 27. I don't know the exact date, but I can tell you why it's 26 or 27, because on his chest is the World Champion sweater. So either taken after they won the World Championship or possibly the spring after. One of the two, I'd say.
And he, of course, went on to manage.
Yes, yep.
30s and 40s with the Cardinals, and then later on with the Braves. He's in the Hall of Fame, right, as a manager?
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah, it's kind of a hard card to get because because he's a Hall of Famer essentially. Now, the thing on the right that we can read, it says Dizzy Dean Service Station. Is there a story behind this?
Yeah, so I sort of have a small collection of about 3 or 4, maybe 5 player-owned businesses. So this one is the first one I got. It's probably my favorite one. In the 30s, the Cardinals' spring training was in Bradenton, Florida.
Yeah, I was going to say it looks like Florida.
And Dizzy Dean, I guess, loved it down there so much that maybe after, I'm not exactly sure on the year, you really can't find the year, but sometime in the 30s, he created a service station down where they had spring training, and I just love how he has the pitching above below the palm tree, and
yeah,
I just really like that.
Hopefully he made some money off of it.
No, for sure. I guarantee it.
All right, so we got some major Tier 1 Hall of Famers here.
Yes. Joe here is shown at a very strange place. You would think, not Yankee Stadium or not any away park. He's actually in Cooperstown here. If you look up photos from Cooperstown in 1939 or similar times, you'll see this exact kind of backdrop. And I was actually wrong. I told you guys this was from the All-Star game. This is actually from an exhibition game where the Yankees played the Double-A affiliate New York Bears. And believe it or not, the Yankees actually lost that game 5-4.
Wow, I was going to assume that was a shellacking, but
no.
Any given day, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know what time frame it is, like during the season?
I want to say it was August. I think it was like August 29th.
Okay.
Something along those lines.
I literally just did my 1939 Yankee show last weekend, and we could have used this. So
August 21st, I have it written down.
By then, they were already like a dozen games in first place and running away with it. So I wonder if they played like some of their backups in this game.
Oh, I guarantee it. Yeah,
he wasn't a backup.
No.
1939, he batted .381 and won the MVP, and of course won the World Series in a sweep. The guy on the right is not in his prime though in this photograph. Jimmy Fox.
No, he's not, but he has a great smile.
Yeah.
This one is taken in 1942. If you look closely at his shirt, there's the Stars and Stripes patch. Like I said, great smile here. The background is actually Sportsman's Park, believe it or not.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yep.
He playing in the National League.
Yep. Yep.
Okay. So a couple more sort of that from that time frame.
Yeah.
That would be, it says it right on it, Lefty Grove.
Lefty, yep.
Who would be Fox's teammate for quite a number of years in Boston.
Yep.
Do you know where this picture is taken?
I do. This one is Griffith Stadium, DC.
Right. Okay. And so it doesn't look like a Red Sox uniform.
No, it's athletics. Yep. This is 1933, actually.
Oh, wonderful. Wow. Okay. Right in the same year as his rookie card, which I have back here somewhere, which I probably should have pulled out. Now, the one on the right is Leo DeRocher.
Yeah, that's the lip, they call him.
Yeah.
1935, and sometimes you'll see these snapshots with the kind of like the fancy border. I love those.
Yeah.
It's something that back in the day would have definitely cost a little bit extra, and most people didn't do it. You don't see it very much. But I actually chose this one because it has a really cool message written on the back. Let me grab it. So, right. Maybe you'll be able to see it, but I'll read it. I'll see if I can show you it. I'll read it for you.
Go ahead.
It says, September 1935, Captain Leo DeRocher, who does everything a shortstop should do and more. Really cool note. I love period notes on the back of snapshots. It's so cool.
There he is. It would, of course,
That Sportsman?
Yes, yep. Sportsman Park.
Yeah. All right. So these are mine. In the early days of my channel, I did a video about this. The story is my grandfather went down to spring training in 1942 and visited a bunch of spring training sites and took photographs, 8 of which have survived to this day. I'm not sure if that's my mother's handwriting or my grandfather's. I suspect it's actually my grandfather's. I should add that when I did that video, it's one of my least watched videos, so I don't mind revisiting this. The player on the left is Phil Rizzuto. The player on the right there is George Selkirk. That is in St. Petersburg, the Yankees' spring training facility. The next pair of photos on the left is Max West and Tony Cuccinello. Those are members of the Boston Bees, as they were known for a few years then. This is 1942, and that is their spring training site in Sanford, Florida. On the right is a picture with 2 players. On the left in that picture is Hall of Famer Paul Wainer. On the right is Tony Cuccinello. The next photograph on the left is Bobby Bragan, who was a member of the Yankees. And on the right is Merrill May. Merrill May was a member of the Phillies. And this is in Miami Beach, Florida, where the Phillies were spring training at that point. And these last 2 are it's Buddy Hassett. Buddy Hassett played mostly for Boston, but 1 year with the Yankees, 1942, in St. Petersburg. And over on the right is Jerry Pretty, who would go on, I think, to be a coach for quite a number of years. And since this is a baseball card channel, I got out some cards from these players. That is the 39 George Selkirk, a card which I showed last week on my 39 Yankees show. That is a 1942 name on front. I'm not 42. 1949 name on front Bowman card of Phil Rizzuto, a card which I've never shown before because I just got it this week.
Nice.
Next to that is a 1933 Gowdy Paul Wainer. I guess could be considered his rookie card, but he'd been in major leagues for about 7 years at that point. And then a card that I got simply because of these photographs is it's a 1934 to 36 batter up Tony Cuccinello, who was not a great player, but stuck around for, I don't know, 12, 14 years, something like that, playing for a bunch of teams, and got in 2 of my grandfather's photographs. So that's how I knew he was since my earliest days. So those are my photographs, and we can move
I
on.
love the Boston Bees ones. How they're like kind of like brotherly. I love that. I go after those type of shots because they're just because your grandfather might have had to say, "Hey, can you please pose for me?" I really like that. That's cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because when I was a kid, my mother showed these to me and put them in her drawer and said, "Stay away." And when I was a kid, but when I was older, she gave them to me and said, "Never sell these," which I never will. But Rizzuto was the one that we were all excited about because this is 1942. He's, fairly new into the major leagues at that point. But at that time, when I was looking at these, he was the announcer for the Yankees, so we knew who he was. What I didn't realize until much later on was that the more exciting photograph here is Hall of Famer Paul Wainer, who's a, not type 2, but like a sort of second level Hall of Famer, but certainly a legitimate one. So the player on the left here is interesting, and I think that's the Polo Grounds, right?
That is the Polo Grounds, and I'd be lying if I didn't say it was one of the main reasons I chose it. Harry Danning is a not often remembered player, but he wasn't a bad player. They called him the Horse, so it wasn't the greatest nickname. But I chose this one just because kind of where it was taken at the park. So this is very, very deep in center field, very like right in front of the scoreboard. The stairs there going up, I really like that. You don't see that often.
Yeah. Is that where the Giants had their bullpen? Was like pretty much in the way back?
I don't think so. I actually think it was on the sides leading down, I'm pretty sure.
I've seen multiple photos with players in the background back there, like during games. So I'm just kind of like curious, like why.
They were probably down there too, I'm sure. I don't know why, but I think the bullpens were on the sides. Don't quote me though. I'm not quite
Maybe
sure.
they kept their extra outfielders in the back so they didn't have to run a mile to get to center field.
True.
Well, Harry Danning has some historical significance because there's a story of he was a Jewish American who was one of the earliest Jewish American baseball players. I think I looked it up. He's 10th all time in hits, right behind Al Rosen. And Harry Danning was the subject of anti-Semitism in spring training in Florida. And his manager, who at the time, I'm not sure who the manager. Oh, Bill Terry. It was Bill Terry was the manager. So this was mid 30s, late 30s Giants. Pulled the whole team out of the hotel because they wouldn't let Danning stay. Interestingly enough, in Miami Beach, where now pretty much it's where Jewish people go to retire, and I don't mean to be anti-Semitic, but it's my family did that. So essentially, Harry Danning is an important historical player, not only because he was a catcher for the Giants, and I think he has a World Series ring, but also because he had to fight through anti-Semitism in the pre-integration days of Major League Baseball. Speaking of integration and the 1930s and 40s, the players on the right are 2 of the greatest players in the history of women's baseball.
Yes. Connie, I'm going to butcher her last name. I want to say it's Wisniewski, maybe. Something along those lines. She is considered a top 3 pitcher in the AAG PBL entire history.
Yep.
She only pitched for 5 years, I believe, and she threw 107 wins and only how many losses did she have? 48. So 107 and 48 is pretty good for only 5 years of pitching.
Yeah, they didn't have pitch counts.
No. Oh, I did one more thing. In 1946 she pitched 40 complete games without being removed.
So she's like the old Hoss Radbourne of the baseball league.
She's like the Cy Young.
And the woman on the right?
That is Ruth Lessing. She was Connie's catcher, and she was one of the best defensive catchers the league's ever seen. So you had one of the best pitchers, one of the best catchers, and here a great kind of, like I said, brotherly snapshot. This is kind of like a sisterly snapshot with the duo.
So at the end of The League of Their Own, the movie, by Penny Marshall, they cut to the actual players in that wing of the Hall of Fame, or it eventually became a wing of the Hall of Fame. And Ruth Lessing actually was one of the women in that shot, because she was one of the major in providing information consultants with Penny Marshall.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Which is really cool. But Connie, is that her name? Connie Wisniewski?
Mm-hmm.
Had unfortunately passed away a few years earlier than that, so she wasn't there. But she is definitely in that wing of the Hall of Fame now. Both of them are. So this picture is really very historically relevant for women's baseball.
It's one of my favorite for sure. I love that one.
And so
this one.
I don't know what you paid for this one, but everything in Babe Ruth world is expensive. But.
Yeah, no, this one's funny because maybe people are curious how large this one is. Maybe they think it's, since you're showing it pretty large, maybe they think it's pretty large. Let me show you the actual size of this one. This is a regular top loader here. So it's maybe an inch by maybe 2 inches with the borders, maybe an inch the photo itself.
Okay.
Very small.
Yeah. I'm glad the resolution is pretty good because
yeah,
it looks good.
Babe Ruth at the premiere of The Pride of the Yankees, which is the film that was created for it told the life of Lou Gehrig.
Yes. Which I didn't look it up, but it's got to be early to mid 40s, right?
42. Yeah, 42.
Okay.
And I'm pretty sure his wife Claire is beside him.
And what I also found interesting here, and the next picture will be important also, is the War Bonds ad above him.
Yes.
Which kind of gives a real historical perspective for the time frame here. And Ruth, of course, would be only on this earth for another few years after this. He died in 48, I think?
48, yeah.
And this is 42. But he looks pretty good there.
He does, yeah. I think so.
So speaking of the war, this one gave me a bit of a feeling of like this is about as historically relevant as you can get.
Yeah, this one is really poignant. I think it's when I bought it, you wouldn't believe it. I think I paid maybe $10 for this.
Wow.
Yeah, it's.
I'll give you 15, and you can make a 50% profit.
I mean, this one, it's showing Allied soldiers.
Yes.
I'm not exactly sure here in the foreground. I am not sure what they're doing. This is 1945, so I'm assuming they'd obviously already won the war here. Some sort of maybe logistical planning, maybe to get the soldiers home, everything run smooth and such. If you look really close at the front of the snapshot, you'll see a helmet. That helmet has the insignia is the 773rd anti-tank, with the black cat with the tank in its mouth.
Right.
Very cool.
So the date of this is what? It's
45.
45. Do we know when in 45?
I
mean,
I'm not sure if that one's written on the back. I have to check. I can't.
I mean, I forget what.
Can't not check.
They got into Berlin. It's in Berlin, right?
Yeah, this is actually, no, it's in Nuremberg.
Nuremberg, okay.
No exact date, but they called it Soldiers Field. Now, I think that's the name the Allies gave it, but the German name they called it Hitler Stadium or some other name. I'm not exactly sure, but
right.
Hitler, this was one of the projects he had. It was like one of those mega projects that was like way on the back burner when the war really picked up. And it was like he was building it to basically be the biggest stadium in the world, which of course never happened. So when the Allies beat them, when we won, they kind of commandeered the field and turned it into a baseball game here. So you see kind of like the strategic planning in the front with like the game in the back. It's just one of the coolest things ever.
Yeah, it's they've conquered Germany. The war is over. Well, at least the European war is over. And yeah, they're all there and looking kind of relaxed. And of course, America's game is pastime is being played behind it.
Exactly.
It reminds me of the closing scenes of like Band of Brothers, where they have the companies playing a baseball game underneath like the Eagle's nest in Germany. It's just like, and the closing credits are about to happen, and it's going through everyone's story. It's just like, I think it's a beautiful
what's
scene.
Great about that is that was probably a representation of things that happened during that time frame, and it's in a movie. This is real life. I mean, this is actual real life.
Yeah.
This is the kind of stuff, the real stuff that would be based on. But yeah, that's exactly what we're talking about here. And it's just, whoever took this photograph, really, I don't know if they understood how much they were capturing in one shot, but it's just an amazing piece. And like I said, I'll offer you a 50% profit.
I can never give this one up. I'm sorry, Dan. This is one that I'll die with.
I don't blame you. So speaking of stadiums, this is Crossley Field, right?
Crossley, yes. One of the main reasons I chose this one is just a beautiful shot of the stadium. I mean, these old stadiums, they don't make them look like they used to with the huge buildings in the back and just like right on the field. This is actually the Dodgers at Crossley Field. Right in the front here, you'll see that's actually Bobo Newsom. Good, decent pitcher. I think he pitched over 600 games, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, he was around for a long time.
This is.
I like
sorry, go ahead.
Look of that woman in the front on the bottom right.
Yeah.
It's like, that's candid,
For sure, yes.
That is candid. Love that shot. So, Wade, I'm sorry you have not talked that much, but I think you're going to be involved in the second half of the show. So what do we have here?
This is a 1955 snapshot from Polo Grounds. And so what I threw together here is one of my favorite things to do with snapshots is trying to find dates, trying to find the exact game. I'm really lucky with this one because the game was written on the back. But to like kind of give it more backstory of the actual like play that we see happening right here, I went through, you can see the scoreboard to the left, which is along that the facade of the second deck right below it in the photo. And you can hardly see it like to the naked eye. I have it right here. It's not a big snapshot whatsoever, so the resolution is really like
you blew up that so you could be able to see it.
Yeah, so I pulled up that scoreboard like an enhanced like CSI, right? You zoom in, and I was able to kind of go to the baseball reference page and then go to like how many outs there were in this inning. You can kind of see the numbers of who's at bat to the left on the scoreboard. So, and with one out, and I think the bottom of the fourth, Monty Irvin had gotten out right before this, but this is like, you could see Willie Mays kind of rounding first, and this is like mid-stride home run. And I think it's one of my favorite snapshots, not only because it's a Willie Mays home run, like moment of history, but like that big background, like the sky, the clouds, this like everything behind Polo Grounds is like right there, and it's just like I don't know any stadiums that like have that big backdrop like anymore, except for like Pittsburgh. But it's just a massive. I don't know. It's just one of my favorite snapshots.
And this is 55?
Yeah, 55. The Cubs ended up winning this game in like the 12th inning. It was like 9-8.
Do you know who the pitcher was that gave up the home run?
Oh, that is Howie Paulette. It's right.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you know what home run this was in May's career?
I don't.
You can look it up.
I can look it up.
A list in Baseball Reference of every home run hit by players, and then like what date and what number it was. So
yeah, I'll have to go do that.
Yeah, so you can figure out at 55, it's probably, I don't know, like not even 100 yet, right?
Rookie in 51.
Yeah, he sits out 53, right?
Yeah.
Or part of 52 and 53.
Yeah, so maybe just over 100, maybe, or early, or right before. So
but he hit like 42 or something in 54, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, but yeah, so that is amazing that you're able to do that. And yeah, Willie Mays hitting a home run. A little bit of research gives you makes the photograph just so much more gives it so much more life.
Mm-hmm.
So we have 3 more stadium photos here.
Yeah. So in the top left, that's Wrigley Field in LA. I have no idea what they took this photo from, blimp, hot air balloon, plane, but it is like the resolution on it is fantastic for the size. Again,
right?
It's probably 2 inches, if that,
wow.
like 2 inches. So the resolution on a photo like that is pretty amazing for the time. You can see the individual cars that line the streets, and it's just super cool to see like this big stadium coming out of the suburbs in LA. Like it's just, I don't know, it's one of my favorites. And then to the right, it's Comiskey Park. I really love the Chesterfield ad in the back, kind of reminiscent of the Polo Grounds, and just like a big old smoking ad that you would never see today. And then bottom left is Forbes Field in 1956. This came to me with a few other snaps of like the family at the game, but it also has a ticket for where they were sitting. So I don't have that handy right now, but it's pretty cool to see like where they were sitting and the vantage point of kind of like the snapshot and this ticket side by side. So I just love it because it's probably Roberto Clemente down there in the bottom right, but
yeah, because they're looking into right field.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Yeah, that's great. All right, so here's 2 pioneers of the game. Of course, Rob.
Yeah, right.
On the right.
The one of Jackie here, he is, I believe, in Vero Beach, if I'm correct, Florida, 1951. And the reason I can date that is his hat. It is the B is very thick. It's not a hat that the Dodgers actually ever wore.
Right.
I believe they only wore it at 51 spring training as kind of a test to see if they liked it, and I guess nobody liked it. But that's how I dated this one is 51.
You know what's amazing is behind him. This you couldn't possibly identify them, but there's like 4 or 5 players, and it's probably multiple Hall of Famers in there.
Right.
That was probably one of the first spring trainings he spent at Vero Beach, if it was 51, just because I know they spent some others like in the Caribbean instead.
Yeah, I think maybe 49 was the first. I'm not quite sure, but that sounds right.
Do you know the background of how this photograph got into circulation or ultimately into your hands?
I unfortunately don't. I bought it from somebody who bought it at an auction. But that's about all I know.
Okay.
In terms of value, this is probably one of my better ones. And at the time when I bought it, I didn't realize it that much, but it's definitely like one of my top favorite ones for sure.
Is there any writing on that?
I have to check that. Find it. No, but like many snapshots, you'll see. I'm not sure if you can see it or not, but It'll say the Kodak branding, Kodak Velux paper. And speaking of branding on the back of photos, it's a great way to know if your photo is original or not. Does it have Kodak branding? Just a good thing to look for.
Anyway, so on the right is Larry Doby and what says Randolph Park. Is that Randolph, New Jersey?
That is Randolph Park in Tucson, Arizona.
Oh, okay.
The spring training location for the Indians. I believe this is 1949. So very, very early in Larry's career.
Well, after he was the World Series hero, though.
That's true. Very, very, very candid, right? You have people's heads in the view, Larry's in the back, just kind of peeping over. So it's a really, really nice one.
Well, the reason I mentioned Randolph, New Jersey is because I was out in Patterson, New Jersey a few weeks ago where Larry Doby played at Hinchliffe Stadium. And they have some, he was from Patterson, which is not far from Randolph. And I was looking over some of the displays that they have for Doby. So he's definitely got a New Jersey connection. More integration. There's Jackie on the left. Do we know the circumstances of this?
Sorry, what was that?
Do we know the circumstances of this photograph?
I do not. So actually, the one on the left with Jackie, there's a one of this same snapshot on eBay right now in a PSA holder type 1. So many of these we say are one of ones, but a lot of snapshots also can be, if you have the film strip, they were printed again. So
right.
I've talked with Lucas about this, and we think maybe these were like on-field promotional, or maybe like the kid's family printed multiple for like all the kids in the photo. So the one on the left and the one on both of these have the same serial number on the back. So they are, a lot of these are printed with some serial numbers, and they don't. We just don't know what they mean. But usually when they have them on the back, they are from the same printing, same time frame. So someone printed them at the same time. The one on the left is Ebbets Field, and then the one on the right is the 1951 Hall of Fame game. You can kind of see Pee Wee's patch on his sleeve from 1951 anniversary of the National League. And you can see Campy kind of way in the back. Squatting down on those tiny little benches at Doubleday Field. But the way I can see that one's from the Hall of Fame game is the tiling on the back of that wall. I've gone back through older photos from Doubleday Field, and it matches up, and that's when they played there in 1951. So,
is that Joe Black on the left?
That is Joe Black. So that one is one of my favorites. He's signing something for, it looks like a service member, which I think is cool. I love getting fan interaction snapshots, and these candids are beautiful ways to get and then the one on the right is Campy, and it's a beautiful shot of Ebbets Field in the background. We talk about pinholes with cards and stuff, and people pinning out like favorite cards on the wall. I love the idea of someone pinning up the photo that they took at the field. This was probably a camera day. They used to have camera days, bring your camera to the park, and these players were all posed along the first base side so you can get a bunch of photos. So you'll see a lot of like interesting posed photographs like that, where they were just sitting in the stands and the players would do that for them.
Yeah, I love he's wearing the catcher's mitt too, which is cool.
Yeah, that Joe Black is actually autographed on the back.
By Joe Black?
Yeah.
That's very cool. I love that.
It's not likely that this photo was the one getting signed in the picture.
Right.
But, it's cool to have like, oh, he's signing this for them, and then this picture is also signed. It's like this weird kind of inception.
Do we know what? I mean, Joe Black came to the Dodgers, was in spring training in '52, I think, for the first time. Didn't make the team, but then got called up shortly thereafter. And then he was, by '56, I think he was gone. So this has got to be somewhere between '52 and '55.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't have a date on the back, but
Can you tell if he has his number on his flannel?
it's right there on the front right.
Because in '52, it was the first year they had numbers in the front. So if there's no number, it could be really, really early. I'm not sure.
It looks like it's peeking out right below his like forearm.
Okay, I think I see it.
Nice. Wow. Wow.
Yeah,
this one gives me the feels a little bit.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites. I think it's just so up close and personal. It's obviously Minoso with the Marianao Cuban team, which he played for like almost his whole career during the Winter League. I think at least through like the early '60s. It's one of the teams he had so many. I mean, he played with them basically his whole career.
Yeah.
From when he was young. And I was actually reading a Baseball Reference article recently, and it's one of the teams he got so many more hits with that he's actually part of like the 4,000 hit club year-wise.
Yep.
Yeah.
Does he? Do you have a date on this? Because he's not young here. It's probably late '50s, right?
I don't have a date on it. It's probably late '50s, early '60s. Another thing you can do with snapshots is, and photos in general, is blacklight them, just like you can with cards. It's a little different with photography just because some photos from later on won't fluoresce. It's just the different uses of optical brightener in photo paper became a lot more prevalent after the 1950 or so. And this one does fluoresce a little bit brighter than my older snapshots. So I place it definitely later, like in the late to mid 50s.
It looks like a locker room shot too.
Yeah. Or maybe dugout where they have like their gloves on the wall. It's pretty hard to see, but yeah, it's just so personal, so up close.
You got to think they're about this close to each other here.
Yeah,
I love that.
And I love the font of his jersey too. Like I've seen there's a Ted Williams on eBay. Maybe it's not there anymore, but of him taking some batting practice versus the Tigres at some point, and I just love the font of that. It's just so wild and wacky, but it's a lot of fun.
So I know there's a story behind this one.
Yeah, this is the 1942. Oh, I have it written down. The 1942 Golden Mustangs of the Cavalry School Detachment over at Fort Riley in Kansas. So I just love it because it's, this fort team. It's part of my integration collection, and, teams and the military at this point was still segregated. And this was actually the same cavalry school and fort that Jackie Robinson was sent to when he was enlisted. The story goes from Pete Reeser that the first time he had seen Jackie was here at Fort Riley, and he came out to play. He wanted to play with the white team, and an officer apparently made the joke that, oh, you have to go play with the colored team. Pete Reeser said that there wasn't one at the time. So, but I think I found a newspaper article that describes this colored team in 1942, and this photo itself shows that there was. Jackie isn't in this photo, and we can't really place any of the other players here because the records were so few and far between. Newspaper articles are few and far between for these black enlisted teams. But if he had played, he would have probably played with this team.
Well, if he were in this photo, Wade, you probably couldn't afford it.
Probably not, but it was a fun research project for probably less than $20.
Well, to me, like $20 for this.
Yeah,
I would pay that in a microsecond.
Yep.
So this is also part of your integration, but these players can be identified.
Yeah, this is Larry Doby on the left, and kind of looks like the same jacket that he was wearing in that snapshot Lucas had. Mignoso in the center and Luke Easter on the right. This is 1951 in Tucson, Arizona. There's a bit of a story behind this one as well, and that is that Tucson was a segregated city still in 1951, and these two players, along with it's Harry Simpson and Sam Jones, were part of the spring training club in 51, and they actually stayed with a man named Chester Willis, and it's because the hotel they stayed at wouldn't allow these players there. So the car you see on the left there is the car that these 5 black players used to get around town and get from Willis's house, all the way across town to the spring training park in Tucson. So, 1947, Jackie comes into the league, but it's years and years and years until these players get to stay in hotels with their teammates. They get to, have the same type of accommodations. So,
well, it's Doby wrote about this and talked about this. After being a World Series hero in Cleveland the next year in 49, he went down to spring training and the discrimination hadn't changed, and he was still segregated. So Mignoso, I guess, was with Cleveland at this point then, right?
Yeah, very early in his career, I think. Yeah, just prior to his trade to the White Sox, because they just didn't have space for him on the team. Like they had a great team and some great players, but that outfield was also pretty jam-packed. And I think Al Rosen was playing third base in 51, so they just didn't have a lot of space for him. So he ended up on the White Sox, and then Bill Veeck went to the White Sox. So, it's kind of like a full circle type of thing for them.
So I love the one on the right, but the one on the left is, we talked about this, before we started recording. This is very similar to the 49 picture pack of warming up right in front of the dugout there, which also looks like there's a Bob Feller photo that looks like the same angle too. But what's the story with the satchel page on the left?
Yeah, the satchel page on the left, you can see it's spelled satchel with an AL at the end. I think the original owner who I purchased this from on eBay said he wrote into the team, and then he wrote into all the teams apparently, and this is what he got back from the Indians. And I think it's a product of Bill Veeck being a fantastic owner and always providing like lots of free things to people who wrote in, just promoting the team in any way possible, and just paying respect to the fans, because the team's nothing without its fans. And I think Bill Veeck is one of the owners that really understood that. So yeah, it looks very much like the 1949 picture pack photo with his hands over his head, which I still need to acquire for his satchel run. And then on the right, that satchel on the right side of what looked to be like 2 friends or family members. I got this off of eBay, and the schedule on the scoreboard has Cleveland playing Washington. So I believe this is dated. I can date this tentatively in July of 1948, a little bit past his debut. If I could see, there's a little sign on the front of the wall right between the man and the woman, and it says next night game. And I can't see and then the team ends with TON. So it's going to be either Washington or Boston. And
Right.
if I knew what it said right before the TON, I'd probably be able to like date exactly when it was played, just because there were so few kind of night games left in the season and the schedule matching up. There were only so many more series like that. So it's
Right.
just like the little things in a photo can really make or break when you can date a photo.
And you know,
Is
this
that one
40
attached?
Hmm?
Is that one is the family one? Is that one attached to the scrapbook, or did you just keep it in the little?
It's attached to those corner pieces. Those corner pieces are still on it, but I scanned it with black paper against it, so it kind of has.
Okay.
Yeah, like those black little corner pieces are also pretty. They're not super prevalent on photos anymore, but they were used in scrapbooks. So instead of pasting the whole back of the photo, you would just slide in the corners to stay in the
Right.
scrapbooks.
Do you know for certain that it's 48 and not 49?
I think I don't know for certain that it's not 49. It very well could be. I think I looked into the scheduling, but I think with only like 16 teams in the whole entire league at that point, the scheduling was pretty consistent year to year.
Okay. Wow.
Okay, this one, I believe it's circa 1952. In terms of just photographic quality, the person that took this really, they knew what they were doing, or they accidentally captured one of the greatest snapshots ever, because you have Peter Reese kind of just in the middle of the frame, and Ebbets Field just perfectly around him. It's maybe the greatest snapshot ever taken, in my opinion, in terms of ability.
Yeah, no, the composition on this is breathtaking. It's almost like a baseball card, you know.
Yeah, right.
Probably a professional photographer, but one using Polaroid, not a Polaroid, a Kodak camera and Kodak film. But yeah, that is Ebbets Field, and that is a really, really great shot of Ebbets Field.
I bought this from a guy who sold me a few Brooklyn Dodgers snapshots, and some of them were like kind of on the street, some of them were kind of really close up, but this one just like stood out. It was very different. It was very crisp and very well put together.
So, for the people listening and not watching, this is Gil Hodges in a very nice suit in a suit shop, presumably in Brooklyn, because he worked and promoted suit shops in Brooklyn.
Yes, he is here at, let me check the exact store name, Crawford Clothes. So this is probably circa 1950, along with most of the lot I bought was circa 1950. And like you said, Gil, he was the go-to suit guy to get people into their store to buy suits. So if you went and saw Gil Hodges, you could buy a suit. It was a great way to get people in there. And I've seen Gil in at least 3 different suit stores: Crawford, I think Howard Clothing, and I don't remember the third one, but he was the go-to guy for sure.
I can say that he does look young in this photograph facially. So this is not 55. This is probably, like you said, close to 50. He gets a little older as they keep
very nice.
As they keep losing the World Series. He starts looking older. Especially, I think it was it 52 where he didn't get a hit until the last game. I forget which one it was, but yeah, he had some. So this is an interesting selection of players. I know that's Sal Magli on the left. I'm not sure who that is up in the middle or the bottom. Yeah. And I think that's Cleon Jones on the right.
So yeah, you have Sal Magli, which I don't know what's going on in that photo, but I love it. I can't tell if he's trying to bounce a ball off his bat, what he's doing, but Yeah, it's a great snapshot. It's just an interesting pose. It's mid something, but yeah, I think that's probably taken at spring training as well. So many of these were taken at spring training.
Right.
And then in the top center, you have Vic Power.
Love
Someone
that one.
scared him good. Someone got him good. Like he looks shocked to see. Like, I don't know if you can see it better here, but he's shaken up. Someone got him with the flash photography, yelled at him or something. But it's one of my favorite ones to bring out during Halloween. I try to change my my collecting Instagram photo to that one just because it's a funny moment. And then down below in the center, that's Ted Williams at Yankee Stadium. It's very hard to see. I don't think even if I held it up, probably wouldn't be able to tell. So that's why I love scanning photos like this. Is just you can really zoom in, and as long as the resolution holds up, which they tend to do,
right,
you can identify players. I don't know who that is on the right of him, the left-handed thrower. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And then on the right is actually Pumpsy Green.
Oh, it's Pumpsy Green. Okay.
Yeah. So I love that one. I love having players who integrated teams. I know he's with the Mets in this, but the Red Sox took forever to integrate. So I'm not too worried about owning any of their Pumpsy Green Red Sox snapshots. But
so he was with the Mets in '63, I think. So this is probably spring training, right?
Yeah. Is this 60? His rookie is 60, right? So yeah, I think he only spent three seasons with them.
Yeah. So this one, I'm trying to figure out why that cop is so like.
Yeah, this one. I don't know. This one is taken in 1951. As you can see, the patch, he's wearing the 50th anniversary patch.
Right.
So I think it's his sophomore year with the White Sox. I believe. Yeah, I'm pretty sure 51 is because he played for the Athletics in 48 and 49, and then 50, and this is 51.
This is Nellie Fox.
Nellie Fox. Sorry. Where it's taken, I have no idea. Somewhere clubhouse, maybe. I really have no idea.
Looks cavernous for sure.
It does. Very young.
Very young Nellie Fox, yes.
Okay.
Another Hall of Fame.
Yeah, here we get to the player I actually collect, Red Shane Dienst. And you might be wondering here, he's actually at Yankee Stadium, 1955. Yeah. And might raise some eyebrows if you're wondering why a Cardinal is at Yankee Stadium. I think the Cardinals have maybe played the Yankees 20 times ever, like total.
Yeah.
And they never played the Yankees in the 50s, not a single time. Well, he was at Yankee Stadium in 1955 to film a Gillette commercial. So he was there promoting razors, and I looked for the commercial, but I couldn't find it. But this is maybe in my top 3 for sure favorites. This one is just I love it.
It's a great one because the smile is there,
Yeah.
And young too, obviously. Speaking of Yankee Stadium, here's another picture.
Yeah, this one.
But more importantly,
this one is taken in 1960 World Series Game 3. Actually, you see on the left side, looks like he's getting interviewed. Possibly is Mickey Mantle, of course. Many know him. And on the right side is Elston Howard, phenomenal catcher, of course. I think the Yankees lost this game. I'm not quite sure, but I think this is the only game Elston Howard actually played in the 1960 series, and
really?
I believe he got 2 hits, and he should have played more. I think I think Yogi Berra might have struggled a bit in this series. One of the only ones he actually had a bit of problems.
There is the World Series bunting there on the facade. So yeah, that makes sense. But this is Mantle, so I bet you paid up for this a little bit.
Yeah, I want to say this is probably about. I mean, I think I might have traded this maybe about $200 in trade value, something around that.
Yeah. You trade this to, was it Nate Brown?
Yeah, Nate Brown. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was a trade, and I think you both ended up with some really great photos.
Yeah, I think actually I traded a like a Nap Lajoie like a game card, maybe something along those lines.
Wow.
Okay, this one is has a pretty long story behind it. In August '65, Willie Mays, and we're seeing this is Willie Mays. Sorry, in August he broke Ralph Kiner's single month home run record with he hit his 17th on August 29th. Sorry, right. So actually didn't. You don't have the side of this one, but I brought it out just to show it.
Oh.
I believe this is Willie Mays being interviewed by an NBC reporter. You can see on the mic, maybe.
Right.
I believe that shot of him in the cage warming up on field warming up. I believe this is from that game where he broke their record. And the NBC photo was after the game. So, they were probably taking these photos. This fan was somehow got on the field, but he knew this would be a historic day. I actually have a few more photos from that day, but I only showed two.
Right. So this
very nice.
This is September '65, but that would be when it was developed.
Right. So that's what I'm thinking. Now, coincidentally enough, Willie Mays did hit his 500th home run September '65. So I'm not saying it's not possibly from that, but I'm going to lean more to the 17 home run previous month.
Is this in Candlestick?
I think so. I'm pretty sure.
Do you know who the other player is on the leaning up against the cage?
I do not.
It's I think it's an African American player.
I do think so as well.
Yeah, it's just hard to say, but you have to look it up. So we got some color.
Snapshots in color. I mean, and this is one I regret not putting on a slideshow. I have a 1949 snapshot in color of Joe Garagiola. You don't see snapshots in color of major leaguers in the 50s. It's very rare. Back in the day, color film was expensive. You're talking 10 times more than black and white.
Yeah.
So it was not common to see until the early 60s, really. And even then, you see a lot of, even up to like 1970, you'll see black and white. So color shots of major leaguers on field are not super common. This one of Don Drysdale on the left here is, I believe it's April 24th, 1963. And he's here posing with a fan. His name is Steve. And Steve actually must have been very popular, or maybe was related to a player, because I have seen him with a lot of players. I've seen him with Stan Musial, Sandy Koufax, more than that. And he's a lucky kid for sure.
Well, Steve looks to be about 5-6 years old there, which means right now he's in his late 60s. I wonder if he's still with us.
I'm not sure.
I would hope so.
I hope so too.
And that is Dodger Stadium.
Yep.
And then on the right is, of course, Ernie Banks.
Yeah, this one is taken in 1966. I think very early in 1966. You can see 2 or 3 fans are just there handing him stuff to sign. He has his helmet in his hand or under his arm. Really, really good shot of the Wrigley Field center field. I love this one.
Interestingly, I mean, this is not a professional photograph.
No.
But the composition with the background is amazing.
Yeah,
It's a stunning photo.
It's just, it's just a happenstance, it looks like. And that is Wrigley Field.
Yep.
Doesn't look that way these days, but yeah, that is Wrigley Field.
This is something I could see Kindler painting, like the shadow playing just right with his face, the outstretched hands, and the.
That'd be so cool.
Like a beautiful image.
So, is that? I mean, I know that's Killebrew on the left. Is that, what was it called? Where did they play Minnesota in the '60s? Metropolitan Stadium.
I'm not entirely sure. It does kind of look like it, but it also kind of the background looks kind of spring training-ish with the trees and stuff.
So on the outfield wall,
yeah, a little hard to see. I don't have a date on it, but this one actually did come with the film strip on the back, so I could get some more of these at some point if I wanted. But September 1970, Harmon Killebrew is I met him when I was playing like Little League All Stars, so he's a bit of a PC of mine on the side. But yeah, he looks exactly how he did when I met him in the early 2000s. So yeah, he was just always such a happy guy. He was just.
That's a great photo. Great photo.
And this is 1970.
Yeah, that's what it says down there at the bottom. So pretty late in his career.
Well, I mean, he won the MVP in '69. So
yeah, I mean, he did have kind of a delayed career just because he, didn't really get going until like almost 1960. Yeah. So
do we know who the other players
on the right? Another guy I just loved to PC because he was like such a fan-oriented guy. He was always so happy, and I love portraits like this where you can see their joy as they're playing the game. Is just a few of my favorite ones to collect.
Do you have a date on the Brock photo?
I do not have a date on the Brock, unfortunately.
I think that's late. That Cardinals uniform looks late '60s.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm looking at the serial numbers because I just realized it has some on the back, and I thought they kind of matched the Jackie one, but no, very different.
All right.
Okay, this one, you get two better lefties in history. I don't know.
For people only listening, which some people only listen because it's an hour and a half long, it's Musial on the left, and of course Warren Spahn right with the Milwaukee. So this has got to be, well, it's color too, so it's probably early '60s, right?
Yeah, 1962. Yep. Milwaukee County Stadium, really nice shot, like many are, accidentally capturing a great large part of the stadium.
Yeah.
I would assume this is some sort of pregame interview type thing, maybe the two lefty greats are going at it this game.
Yeah,
both near the end of their careers too. Musial would only play 62 and 63.
Right.
And Spahn, actually 62, I think it's the year he pitched that greatest game ever pitched with Marichal. And he was like 40 years
old. I think so.
And so Spahn would finish in 65 would be his last year in the majors. So yeah, this is pretty much end of the career, kind of absolute Hall of Famers at this point. So yeah, that is great. Speaking of color, this is definitely the coolest player captured here in the upper left.
Yeah, that Willie McCovey is absolutely one of my favorites. So the story behind that one is actually pretty interesting. I was part of a vintage Discord group with Lucas at one point, and I don't know if it's died down or not, but someone in the group had their church reached out to them because they knew that they collected baseball stuff, and they had found these suitcases of just photos upon photos from this hotel down in, I think it was Texas. This lady must have worked at, or
I think it was Florida. I'm pretty sure Florida.
Okay, yeah, spring training would make a lot more sense. And she just had photos upon photos and autographs that this church had in suitcases up in their attic for 30, 40 years at this point. And so they were like, what can you do with these? Can you, like sell these? Like, we want you to have these. And so he ended up giving all the money that was raised through selling these photos on the Discord to his church for the food bank program, I believe that they had. So,
Nice.
Yeah. So I think these were all taken. The photos from that lot were taken at this hotel that the lady worked at. I think Lucas has some from this as well. Yeah. So Willie McCovey looking fly as hell, like the coolest dudes in the room that day for sure. And then Eddie Matthews on the right. I got to say, he probably looked pretty dapper in that light tan or white suit. He's got ladies on to his right or to his left, maybe getting some autographs or something. But,
that's
they look pretty
really
excited.
Because that's a young Eddie Matthews.
Yeah, pretty young. The girls look very excited to meet him. So, I mean, he was he had a fantastic rookie year, and he was one of the youngest guys to hit like above 40 home runs in that second year, I think. So,
right. So this is probably 50. This is probably Milwaukee, like 53, 54, 55 that time.
Yeah. For sure. And then I threw this wrench in your wheel of chronological order, but I thought you said organize stuff in the theme, so I was like, I'll do this flashy, type of photos because that's Walter Johnson and maybe his Lincoln, but that's when you got a cool car back then, like you took
got to be like late teens, right?
Late teens. For sure. And this, I think, came from the state. And Walter Johnson's one of those guys that you can find snapshots in Canada fairly easily.
Lot.
And
Yeah.
not very expensive because it's not a flooding of the market with this stuff, but Hank, his son, sold a lot of that collection, and he's active member on Net54. So if you do post a snapshot that you think is from the collection, he might recall that it was part of it from the personal estate. So just if anyone's interested in finding, older snapshots, pre-war snapshots, and don't mind that they're plain clothes, Walter Johnson's a great guy to find some early ones of.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is our last shot.
Yeah, this one is probably the photo in my collection, type 1 snapshot that is, means the most to me. I got it from a pretty good friend, Jonathan, and it was one of the first snapshots that I actually purchased. And I'm glad I did because it's a Clemente and his prices are always skyrocketing. Yeah. And it's a personal snapshot of his. So it was part of his estate, which Hunt had a big auction for a few years ago, maybe like 5 years ago or so. And it's just, it means a lot to me. And it's later in his career. It's 1970, 71, and he's the player manager for the San Juan Senadores. And just having a color snapshot of like one of my baseball heroes. It's actually hanging on my wall right now. I have it framed up, and it's in a type 1 slab. So it's actually one of my favorite things to look at on a daily basis. Later in his career, he's attempting to, get some managerial experience because he wants to be. And it's pretty, like, he speaks about becoming, one of the first black managers in the major leagues, or the first black manager in the major leagues. And during the season, he was coaching and playing a lot against Frank Robinson. who ended up becoming that first black manager of the major leagues. So fulfilling, kind of what Jackie Robinson ultimately thought was an injustice, because there were so many black players at that point. You had guys like maybe Campanella could have been manager if he was never in the accident. Larry Doby also became a black manager. So all these fantastic black players, and it just took too long. So I think this photo speaks volumes about Clemente as a person. And it wasn't a successful team that year, or it was semi-successful, but Clemente had a fiery personality and took a lot on as the manager, expecting a lot from his teams. So yeah, that's kind of the story behind this one.
So I just wanted to show one photograph up there, which is on my wall, which I've done a video of. It's Mickey Mantle and several other players in a bar, a restaurant, Italian restaurant in Baltimore. I don't know if you could see it. I don't
Just
know.
You and some cards.
I should have put I forgot all about it. I should have put a photograph in the slideshow, but nevertheless, this wasn't about me. This was about you guys, because I really want to thank you both for coming on and showing. I know there's more to the collection than we saw today, but we certainly saw a fantastic array of different photographs of players and places and some history, and really just great pieces from you both, gentlemen, and I do appreciate you coming on.
Yeah,
Thank you, Dan.
Yeah, and I love the history of your pieces. That your story epitomizes why we like collecting those. Like, we might not have attachment,
Exactly right. That's true.
not personal attachment, but
yeah, the family part of it is really kind of special to me. And like I said, my mother is not with us anymore. It's been a while, but and my grandfather has been a long while. But to have a piece of them,
Exactly.
is really pretty special. And I know the handwriting on there is also, I've saved things of my mother's handwriting, not baseball related, but this one, is extra special. So I do appreciate you guys coming on, give me a chance to go into some of that, but also to see your outstanding collections. So viewers, we will be back next week. I've got a lot of stuff going on. Wear my 4 Collectors shirt. My next 4 Collectors event will be March 9th when we're doing a live stream about the Philly show. But in the interim, on this channel, I've got an interview show next week. I'm going to talk to the White Plains card promoter in the middle of the week after that, and then the Philly show. So a lot going on. But you guys, thank you so much. And viewers, we will see you again next week.